All right, we'll think about it. Anyway, let's get going. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Smudcast number 603. Do games have to be fun? From Extra Punctuation, or the only thing you're watching Extra Punctuation for is Mr. Yahtzee. And I'm going to save us a lot of time and just say yes. That's the point. That's why we play games.
The thing is, fun. What is fun?
Fun is a subjective interpretation of your values based off what you consider entertainment, and those values have sub-values, or you could have a criteria with sub-criteria. So if you think, let's say you like sports games, you don't like RPGs, so you're just going to play sports games, even though a game is about a role-playing, it's just not for you. You don't find that a good use of your time to experience fun. And then within your criteria for fun, which is sports, you say, okay, what kinds of sports? And you say, I like soccer, but I don't like hockey. You're like, all right, what about soccer? And then there's all the elements of soccer, or playing a video game like FIFA over the years, why you like FIFA. And I could argue, you know what? I love FIFA back in the 90s when it was 2D and you had a 45-degree angle camera and you could do tackles and you could do bicycle kicks and it looked really cool in that 16-bit era. And that, for me, was peak FIFA. And then FIFA went 3D, and it sucked. It's no longer fun. And then the rest of the world looks at you like you're a moron. But that's okay, because that's your idea of fun. So yes, games are subjectively forms of entertainment, as any entertainment is. But it's up to you to determine what is your idea of fun, excitement, horror. Pick a subgenre. It doesn't really matter. And that's your idea of entertainment. That's all it is. And that's why we have genres. That's why we have control schemes. That's why we have keyboards or PC versus Mac versus console versus whatever. It's all subjective, but the guys who make the game, and this is, depending on the size of the studio, the bigger the game, the more focused they have to be, because it's going to keep branching off with more ideas and more creative lenses that are focused on this one thing that they're making. Like the designers are making, I don't know, the hockey pucks to be really, really big, and the hardcore guys want everything to be realistic, like a simulation. Like, no, it has to be regulatory size, everything to scale. So all these things have to be within the realm of, is it hockey? Is it a simulation? Is it real? Is it fun? Is it goofy? So there's degrees of fun within that little niche category of your idea of fun.
So what you are telling me is that this video have a self-defeating point.
It's trying to say fun is this objective value. It's like, well, the end result is some elated stimuli, which causes you to have your hierarchy of values be at the top. So you don't have to ask like kids to go play video games because they just like video games. It's fun for them. And to them, it doesn't matter whether they're playing FIFA or an RPG. There's low color, screen, lighting, interface, control, input, output, Mario, like to them, that's all they need. They don't need a reason. It's just interactive, and it passes the time that makes you have a good experience. I could say the same of a car. You're driving a car. Doesn't matter where I'm going, so long as I'm driving, and I can take the turn. And some people like the top speed. I like the turns. I like the suspension. That feeling you get when you're not drifting, but you're sort of using the rubber of your tires to go against the grain of the ground. Like that's, to me, is driving. That's a fun experience because it shows off how a car can handle certain physics that a straight car. Any car can go straight, But you get a car that can handle turns and bumps in the road. That's a good car. That's a Porsche. That's a Mercedes. That's a car with good suspension. So it's subjective, but within that subjectivity, there are values that you hold true, which are objective. So that was a long-winded approach to fun. I do apologize, guys.
No, it was pretty good.
I think it's going to be more intelligent than whatever Yahtzee's going to tell us.
Okay.
I'm sure it'll have something to do with white supremacy.
Oh, yeah, I remember his previous video. We talked about being in California and... Oh, God, what was it?
How the Japanese are white. And that's when I...
Persona 5, it has white people in it, yeah.
Oh, boy. That was fun.
Good stuff.
Yeah. All right, so
that was fun.
9 minutes and a half. We've already skipped the first 30 seconds because it was, I think, an ad and the intro music, which we can skip. So here we go.
Games have to be fun. Oh, blimey. 6 words in and already we're in the tentacles of a semantic kraken. What do we even mean by fun? For that matter, what do we mean by have to be? Nobody has to do anything. No one's holding a gun to anyone's head. No doctrines from the United Nations will place sanctions on international trading if your game isn't fun. A better question might be, if it wants to maximize broadness of appeal, positive critical response, and sales, would a game be well advised to be fun? I suppose. But broad appeal isn't always what a creator is shooting for, necessarily. The game I think of is Scorn, which met with a rather mixed critical reception from general audiences, largely because it's not fun. The combat is awkward and sticky and mostly not worth it, the environments are confusing to navigate, and everything's really gross. It's like being stuck in a giant dried-out butchered horse carcass. Thing is, though, I get the strong impression that that's absolutely the intended experience. It's a horror game. It's trying to invoke sensations of dread, disgust, discomfort, and lots of other words that start with D. How better to make us afraid than by making our methods of fighting back kinda shitty? Basically every survival horror game does that to one degree or another. This is why I don't like using words like fun, especially as a universal metric for video games. Scorn isn't fun, but it does...
Oh god, I just feel like this entire video is made because everyone wanted Scorn to be a really good game, and it's not.
Oh, I see.
I have this as a feeling.
Yeah, because
I agree with the premise. I don't like using fun to actually when I'm going to review a game.
Right.
But I agree with Hawk that this is actually an apology for Scorn.
Okay.
Yeah, I also have the approach that, like, if it's a well-made game, like it's well thought out entirely as like the premise and the mechanics. The mechanics is like, I feel like, is the point where it turns out if it's gonna be fun or not. I have recently played with the original BioShock System Shock from '94, and the controls are incredibly archaic, but once you get the hang of it, it's really fun.
Right.
Like, it's the atmosphere, it just sucks you in.
Yeah.
It's well made.
Like, I remember playing Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and you jump in the air, and Alucard, you see his trails, like his echo trails.
Yeah.
And it looks so cool. Like, that's cool to look at. And then you realize you could move left and right in the air. You're like, how does he do that? Oh, he's a vampire. Who cares? It looks cool. It feels cool. Everything's slick. He has a backdash. It's really slick. You feel like you're in control, even though you just have a sword, and then you lose everything, and then you have nothing. And
yeah, first few minutes, I believe, like because like I think you start with Richter, and then you switch to Alucard.
Right.
Time skip, yeah.
And
that feeling that like all those cool moves are gone.
Yeah, so you lose all your equipment like Metroid, and then you're just stuck jumping, and you're like, wow, I'm still pretty cool, but I'm weak. And you want to, like, okay, now I got to get stronger. I got to gain some levels. Suddenly you gain levels. You had no idea it was an RPG. You're like, oh my God, I kill things. I gain levels. And then you find a rusty sword. And then you find an iron sword. You're like, oh, the iron sword's slightly better. Should I use it? And you have the menu system. And then you're going through the motions of what an RPG is. You get stronger as time goes on. And I would argue the more you play, the more repetitive it gets. So your brain goes, oh, dopamine, it's not as important as it used to be. I'm going to have to put the game down. I'm going to save. I'm going to go eat lunch. I'm going to go to bed or whatever. And then you go, oh, what was that awesome game I played yesterday? Oh, yeah. And your brain goes, okay, I'm going to get used to this again. And you play for another hour or two, and then you go back. That's the general routine of anything in life. You're going to get bored. You're going to get tired. Your brain has to say, slow down. We got to do something different. And entertainment, you can't just keep playing a game forever. You can't. You're gonna get sick. Your brain is gonna melt. Your body's gonna melt. Everything's gonna be like, oh, go do something.
I don't know. I think I could play Red Dead 2 forever.
Probably.
I know some of those players who play League of Legends like every single day, like
really?
Every single afternoon. Yeah, I have a friend like that. She does that.
Talking about people play stuff forever, when it comes back to sports games, there's still Facebook groups about games like Football Manager 2001 to 2002 stuff. And that's like a 20-year-old computer game, and people are still playing seasons on that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Back from 2001. So they're on like season 3 million.
I still see like some of those FIFA 06, 07 people playing games.
Usually because the 06 to 09 were the best games for soccer.
Yeah, it's like taking
For what?
Civ.
For what?
What?
I said soccer.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Well,
For football, yeah.
think
football.
of games like long games like Risk or Civ 4, where these games take, and you can play them online. I think they just take so long. I think there was an international Risk tournament like last month or something, and it is all this time used up to figure out strategies and diplomacy and whatever. So it's different.
I've played. When I used to be completely addicted to Total War, I once played Empire Total War for like 3 years.
Oh, you poor soul! You played Empire Total War.
Yeah, but I got addicted to it for ages, and I played literally like this one game for about 3 years. So it went from 1700 to 2684 or whatever it was.
I'm still on the 9th century in Crusader Kings. I didn't get to the fall of Byzantium.
But it happens. You just spent ages playing games that shouldn't have, lasted that long. So anyway, to get back to the point, this feels like Scorn's not interesting. It's not got good things, but it's still a good game because look at this environment. It's okay. So that's what I feel this video is going to be about.
Yeah,
not about should games be fun, but no, Scorn is actually a fun game.
Yeah, because within the genre of Scorn, visually and setting wise, and all the other elements of visual storytelling, it's a horror. So I don't know if you ever dated a girl who loves horror. There's all these women who love horror. I don't know why, but they do.
They love misery.
dated one, Smud. I'm having a child with one.
Yeah, okay. Well, for some reason, they like the excitement and the shock, and they get scared, and they like that feeling, and then they like the I guess the dopamine hit after the fact because they're no longer scared, so they get this rush, and then it goes away, and then they feel much better. So I don't know if that's it, but to me, that's not fun. That's just exciting. That's just stimulating very, very sharply. So you can't really say horror per se is fun, but after the fact, you could say I had a fun or good time.
No, I guess you can say at least a small part of the population have fun playing horror games, and they don't even fear what they are seeing. They just like the aesthetic of horror games.
Yeah, like you look at like amusement rides at any kind of fair. It's exciting. You're not going to be in any danger for the most part, but that's the thrill. It's like, oh my God, I'm being thrown around by this machine and going really fast up and down and round and round. And you get off, you're like, oh, I'm okay. Let's do it again. So it's this exciting idea that you don't know what's going to happen, and then you go around the second time. I remember going on a roller coaster when it was Canada's Wonderland, it's an amusement park in Toronto, or north of Toronto, and it was like a half rainy day, so it sort of rained in the morning, and then it stopped raining for the rest of the day, so no one went to the park. And I went on the same ride 7 times in a row, and I went in the front, the back, the middle. I did all the different configurations. And eventually I got used to it. I was like, okay, the 6th, 7th time, I was like, I know it's going to happen. I know how I'm going to feel. It's not going to be as exciting. Your brain gets used to it. Your body gets used to it. And you move on. You just keep going. So it's natural for your body to adapt.
Well, with obviously with the frills and everything, I used to be terrified of roller coasters. But then as I've grown up, I've been on them. You get that first excitement, and then it's just like you just spend the next 30 minutes waiting for the thing to finish. He's like, okay.
All right. Here is Mr. Rusty Cheese Knife. Hey, sir, we just talked to you yesterday, I believe. Thanks for the 5. Fun is objective. Ooh. Young boys love guns because males are born to be protectors, guardians, etc. They practice with toys what will later be reality. Okay, I would say the elements of your appreciation of, let's say, guns is subjective, but the actual understanding of what is a good gun is objective. So you can look at a gun, you could say grip, weight, balance, caliber of bullets, all the elements that are objective and measurable, those are definitely something to respect. You could learn a skill, you could be a rifler, you could learn how to make the thing, and that would be fun to build, fun to use for sure. But the actual gun as a pastime, like shooting or practice shooting, a skill is subjective to those who have a different hierarchy of values. So if you're an American, you might have an appreciation and acceptance of guns more than the rest of the world. And that's totally normal, but it's not objective for your hierarchy of values. A hierarchy of values is subjective. I could like chocolate milk above all other things in my life, even milk. And then guns would be third because I'm American or whatever. So, whatever my hierarchy is. And then within that, you can say, well, why is the Luger such a great gun? Why is the Magnum such a great gun? Why is it better than the Luger? And then you could argue, the caliber, the use of parts.
Wait. Who will say that the Luger is better than the Magnum?
I don't know. People love the Luger.
That's who will say it. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, no. There's lots of like old guns are really like some of the old guns from Russia were really made well. For example, some of the Belgian ones. I think the P90 is still a very popular gun. So there's all kinds of different reasons and arguments. Quality. What's the Stem? Is it the Sten from Great Britain? I believe the cheapest gun.
It is
one of the easiest to make. Not the greatest gun, but for what it needed to be, it was perfect. So. You could argue for its time it was perfect, but as the technical elements of what makes the Sten a Sten, pretty low score compared to everything else.
But for a gun that needs to be like mass produced for a massive war, it's not a bad a little machine.
Yeah. The solution,
like you're saying, nowadays it's like, well, it's no good because, well.
Yes, so the solution or the problem was perfect. The solution was perfect for the problem of mass producing really quickly the Sten. And even Canada helped produce that during the war. I recall that story.
Well, look at, you talk about military things. Look at, like, everyone always has this idea of, like, the Tiger tank from the Second World War being this like amazing piece of machinery and, like, this thing to be feared. And then when you see it next to modern day tanks, you're like, why? Why? This is tiny. It's like normal rocket propelled grenades today can destroy a Tiger tank. So it's like things that are amazing, once they get surpassed, don't look as amazing or don't feel as amazing, or there's all that sort of stuff. So that also comes into what fun is as well.
Sure.
Because something that might have been fun in 1919 might not be fun now.
Yeah, it's like arguing, well, I think saltine crackers are better than sugary biscuits or whatever. It's like, well, you have a preference toward a certain flavor.
Well, it's like the Cosby Show. Like, back in the 90s and everything, it wasn't funny, but nowadays, everything that came out is hilarious.
Every time you watch the Cosby Show nowadays, you're like, ooh. Jesus.
No, I just laugh because I'm like, oh my god, people are being drugged and raped.
Anyway, let's get on with Scorn.
That was normal in the 90s.
Oh god.
The 90s, what a great time to be alive.
All right.
Not for Kurt Cobain, though.
Oh, geez.
Unless you were cast in the Cosby Show, at which point, sucks.
All right, let's continue.
Anyway.
Succeed in what it's trying to do, i.e. gross me the fuck out. I keep saying the whole point of consuming entertainment media is to induce emotions in yourself, to explore the furthest regions of experience, at the risk of sounding like...
So, this is another interpretation. You can't say media is just to generate emotions. It can. This is a subject argument. So if I'm the subject observing the screen, I could watch a horror film and go, I don't care. Someone's head's getting chopped off. Doesn't bother me. Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah.
There's been numerous times where I've said I've watched a horror movie and I just do not care about any of the characters.
Right.
So I don't care that any of them are dying. In fact, I soon find myself rooting for the monster demon or whatever.
That happens a lot.
I'm like, kill them all. Kill everybody.
They're so dumb.
There is an auxiliary who wants to join. Is that okay to bring him on?
I don't mind. It's a short video. It won't take too long. Go ahead. Yeah. Who we
No,
got?
it's fine.
Who do we got?
We've got Cosby Lover 62911. Oh, great.
Wisp couldn't make it, so yeah, we've got to
get other people.
other Germans around. I guess I don't know.
Other Germans.
Also put oh god. So just
I'm not that annoying.
No, we thought you were going to be German. It's okay.
Let's go French chaos. Then
all fine
we will excommunicate you.
What now?
Yeah. I don't know. He's speaking Brazilian. Just go along with it. Yes, Matthias.
Look. English is not my first language, okay? It's not easy to speak this forsaken language.
What?
The forced
I'm afraid
language.
to even make people mad now.
I said forsaken language. God damn it. I hate this language.
we know
Stupid
we know
English
that
people.
Jesus heard that.
The thing is, we know
Lord
that
bless us.
we know English isn't your
No,
first.
I can't hate languages. I can't hate people. There's a difference.
But yeah,
I
we
hate
know
people,
English
so
isn't
I am.
We know English isn't your last. Isn't your
Why
first.
you British people couldn't just use Latin as your base language instead of German?
Because fuck you, win the next war. Then you can come at me with my language.
Oh dear.
Matthias, don't start this stuff. Whisper's gone here. I don't have to talk about wars with you.
Anyway.
It's caused chaos by my presence. I apologize.
Anyway, we can continue with the video. Let's go.
Well, hold on. With this, I just wanted to point out with he was talking about Scorn and things being discussed. The Callisto protocol. I'm going to keep bringing it up because obviously it's the most recent
topical.
one. Yeah, that's got very visceral like environments, and it's quite gory and bloody, but it didn't raise anything out of me because I just saw it as like they're trying too hard, and they didn't focus. I mean, there's so much wrong with it, but even though it looks nice and gory, it wasn't enough to entertain me.
Right.
Or keep me interested, because it really was, as I say with the game, it was a slog to get through.
And that's sort of the underlying premise of storytelling, not regardless of genre, is our brain says, okay, is this intelligent enough for me to appreciate? Because a lot of people who read like really good science fiction or really big, thick books or whatever, they're like, okay, I'm not going to be into video games, even though the genre is the same, or movies or whatever. The book is like the ultimate format of entertainment for them, for their brain, because they're just constantly absorbing all these ideas. So to get it in a different format, like a video game, is a little different for them because they're used to using their imaginations more. And when you see it, and you see the horror, you're like, yeah, it's kind of gory, but my brain thought of something even worse. And through my imagination, I conjured these putrid concepts, and I had this nervous reaction myself, as opposed to just whatever some artist came up with visually. It doesn't do anything for me. So there is not necessarily a hierarchy of values, but sort of this not elitism, but I'm going to say elitism anyways. That's all I can think of, because you have this like
for the lack of better words.
Yeah, it's like I'm the wine connoisseur. Nothing is better than wine, even though there's whiskey and beer and liqueur there's all kinds of cocktails you've never experienced. And I know objectively that beer is the most complex thing you can brew as opposed to wine, because there's just more stuff in it. There's more flavors. There's more ingredients. There's more.
That is indeed true, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry,
was that?
I was about to say, I swear, nearly every fan base I'm a part of, and I hate the fact I'm a part of fan bases, there's always at the very least some snob when it comes to gaming. They're like, this game is not to my quality, therefore it's garbage.
It's kind of like they have the Chrono Trigger Golden idea, whatever their version of Chrono Trigger is for their video game, in each genre or their genre. It's like it's not as good as Battlefield 2, or it's not as good as FIFA 2006, or whatever the thing is. I don't know.
I've actually played through Chrono Trigger, and I've always thought it was decent. I never thought it was like the best, but I always thought it was pretty decent.
Yeah, no, I think it's a quick experience, and all the things it does very well. and then it's over within like 10 hours.
It's a well-rounded story as well, yeah.
Right. It's very tight. It's very quick, and the fact that it uses time travel blows my mind. It does it well. So
Time travel is complicated.
yes, it is. That's
to be honest. I think with my dealings with games now is it might be because I'm getting older and I've been playing video games for so long, and it might be because my brain's just it's seen pretty much nearly everything you can do, and it's also with like movies. I've seen a lot. There's nothing new for me, and I've seen a lot of games like do really well and like reach that pinnacle. So when I see another game that it might be good and it might be half decent, but because it's not as good as the like games that have been before it, my brain just like sort of like ignores them now and just sees the flaws. It's like,
oh my god, you're turning into Yahtzee.
I wanted to mention two things.
Don't go to California.
Sorry.
Yeah, go on. What do you want to mention?
I wanted to mention something I did say in the comments on the live stream. Man, I sure love paying $60 for a crappy game that's like a movie. Paying for a movie for only $20 is overrated.
Yeah.
Because I'm always of the mentality that the game has to be fun, which is why I wanted to join this when I heard about it. Because if you have a game that has like a crappy gameplay, let's just say I'm not gonna be wanting to push myself to play through a game. Like, the last game I thought about with interesting story that I did not want to play is Bravely Default 2. And I felt bad because my Pablo got me that game, and I only played it for like 2 hours, and I realized this is just boring. I cannot push myself to play through this.
Right. I think a lot of people who liked the original one did not like it as much in the second.
And it's sorry.
Yeah, no, it's hard because JRPGs they hit a certain niche and they try to do something new. And if you're not into that, like there's all the games I played this year, which are JRPGs, and there's a lot. They tried to do something new, but have like 90% is just classic JRPG formula.
Yeah.
And the one I'm playing right now is it's a Kickstarter from some German group. And they took like Xenogears and Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross and Suikoden and Bravely Default and just slammed them all together. And you're just like I get the references. And you're just inundated with like, oh, this base building, and then you have mechs, and then you have flashbacks, then you have like the soul being reincarnated. You have all these things happening, and just like, whoa, it's like I'm playing the 90s, which is a great experience for me. And everything's fast paced, so you're not like waiting for stuff to happen. And there are some definite technical problems with the map and some of the inventory and some of how that works. But because there's so much, it's like going to a restaurant, it's a buffet. The buffet is fine. It's not a great buffet, but it's so big that you could just stop and go to the Chinese table and get some rice, or go to the Italian table and get some cannoli or cannelloni or whatever you like. And it like you just have this variety of experience that you say, you know what, as a restaurant, it's not the best restaurant, but it's got a little bit of everything. And everyone who's come from the 90s, who's played one of the JRPGs, go, oh, this reminds me of that. So these...
sorry.
Yeah, so it's this weird experience where I know it's not the greatest game ever, but if you're a JRPG fan, you're going to love something about that game.
Yeah.
Oh, dear God. That just reminds me of a few games that I've thought about. There's a few games where I know they're flawed. I've actually encountered some stupid glitches with them, and I've raged so hard. And yet, I would compare it to like a mother's blanket as a gift. You know it's not the best. You know it's a little shoddily made sometimes, but at the same time, you could feel the love in that game in your soul. And you cannot help but love it.
I was going to use...
I agreed with you all the way up until like you can feel the love. Because one of my guilty pleasures is Dragon Age 2, and there's no love from the people who made that.
I guess I'll talk about the game I was describing. It's Tangle Deep.
Well,
I've encountered... sorry.
What you just described, this is a silly thing I'm going to bring up, but there's a sommelier I used to follow a year ago, And he says his favorite wine, someone ate all this wine. His favorite wine, his most memorable, his tastiest, his most experiential, was the wine he had the day his son was born, which explains everything about memory and why he recalls the thing. Because if you want to study for your test, and immediately after, do something exciting or gets your heart rate going or freaks you out. And you will remember that happened that evening or that day. For whatever.
It happened to me so many times.
Yeah. So
I remembered my English exam test after I murdered my entire family. I got the blood pumping.
And now I just remembered that I flunked 3 or 4 classes during my last semester at college.
Oh well, I flunked all the other ones because I'd already killed my family. I couldn't revise after that.
I flunked my classes because I just felt so drained at college. I was like, I'm tired of this shit. And one of my classes had about almost everybody hate me except for 2, and neither of them was the freaking teacher.
Oh.
Yeah, I was not happy that semester.
All right. Well, we're getting off into rambling territory, so let's get back to the video.
About that.
No, that's everyone's fault here. Don't worry. Here is a $10 super chat from Rusty Cheese. Now, dude, you're already on the panel, yes, but okay, fine. Thank you, sir. Scorn is too visual, capital 2. H.R. Geiger worked off your imagination, difficult to replicate. Alien was successful because what they didn't show too much. Imagination is the most valuable asset to storytellers.
Oh, absolutely. Like the first Alien was like so much of it was in the dark. And right at the end, you see more of the rubber suit for the xenomorph. And it looks ridiculous. And like that was the moment when I was a kid. I was like, is that the thing?
Yeah,
seriously?
Yeah. And that's the element of horror that is everyone figures out after you grow up. You go, wait a second, why am I scared? I don't know what I'm seeing. My mind is imagining what's going to happen. I'm very tense. I have an unknown in my brain, and it's that constant mystery that makes you go, ooh, what's going to happen? Ooh, what's going to happen? If you saw the alien the first 10 seconds, you're like, all right, okay. And then, and then you go back to the movie, you're not going to be scared. So yes, you have to know how to tell mystery stories very well, and visually, of course, that's with Alien is a horror story. It's great. So
it's like, especially with Jaws. Before you see the shark, quite suspenseful. Then you see this incredibly awkward
animatronic.
Animatronic.
And you're just a bit like, oh,
huh?
Okay,
that's a shark.
Yeah.
Anyway,
there's always a bigger fish.
Okay, let's keep going.
We're gonna need a bigger boat.
Like a fucking Cenobite, and it can be just as viscerally rewarding to experience fear, sadness, and anger as well as joy. So I don't say fun, I say engagement. I do feel like a game has to engage emotionally, if it wants a positive review from me at least.
Again, he's using the word emotionally. No, it doesn't. It needs to stimulate some part of what you consider entertaining. And if it's controls, like you feel empowered by controls because the controls are clean, you push forward exactly the way you want to go forward. Same with backward. I was talking about Symphony of the Night. It's silky. It feels like you're in control. That could be enough for me to play any kind of game of any genre because I feel like I'm doing something.
It's not... sorry.
And even if you want to get emotionally engaged, you need to have a higher standard, or else you're gonna see those cheap emotional manipulations like killing the dog that you just saw, or the I don't know, the baby of the dragon was crushed in a rock.
Yeah, and your brain, your body will get bored. You'd be like, "Oh, I'm killing the hooker again for the 17th time to get my money back in Grand Theft Auto." It's like, yeah, you're not gonna have the same laugh or thrill doing that the 16th or 17th time. It's just not going to happen. So this reaction is, it has to be emotionally engaging. I'm like, no, it doesn't.
Even if it needs to be...
Sorry.
Even if it needs to be emotionally engaging, it needs to be way deeper than just that. You actually need to be invested with the characters or even the animals that you enjoy.
This is back to... Oh, sorry, go ahead. I've been talking to you. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, it's like, it's saying, it needs to be emotionally engaging. It's like funerals are emotionally engaging. You have emotions there, but no one goes, God, these are fun.
Yeah.
No, but you know what I mean? It's one of those things where emotion is good and also bad.
Right. And when we speak of engagement... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Chaos.
Say it!
There are two ways I do emotionally I don't want to feel when playing a game. I don't want to feel annoyance and I don't want to feel rage. If I feel either of them while playing, I'm just gonna be like, you know what? I got better games to play. I'm not bothering with this. You know,
Yeah.
I want things to be fun. You know, like, yeah, this stuff might, but if it also emotionally invests me, like if I care about the characters, that's a bonus.
Right.
Like,
and Hawk touched upon that when he mentioned, is the character compelling? Why do we care about the characters? And we go back to storytelling reasons, which are external to our criteria of fun or entertainment. And we say, is there enough setup for me to understand the humanity of the characters, for me to want to continue listening and learning about them? And that's why I talk about plot so much in storytelling. Because once we have a plot, once we have one of those 20 or so reasons why humanity does anything, we can relate to them, we understand what they want, we understand where they want to go, and it's interesting and compelling to see the steps they take. And that's
I do want to mention one game that really does gameplay fun and actually does the story and characters well, which is Ys 8. And why I say this is because almost every single NPC you meet in that game, and the story, phenomenal. Both of them, phenomenal. All the NPCs are likable. And honestly, I could go on and on about it. I honestly would put Ys 8 in my top 5 games of all time.
Did you say East 8?
Yeah, Ys 8. YS 8.
Oh, Ys. I'm sorry. I thought you said a cocktail. I was like, East 8. I know that cocktail.
I'm really
I know one of my
behind on the game.
semesters was bad, but I'm not turned to drinking yet.
Yeah, okay.
I'm really behind on the Japanese games. There's a lot of them. They're like, set this game. I'm like, what? I've never heard of this game.
YS, yeah.
I do want to mention one thing as well about the Ys 8. I've been playing the inferior version apparently, which means that the better version is even better, and my love for it could potentially increase as well. But the Switch version, still great. I love it.
Yeah, no,
so
the Switch
much.
did a good job. The Ys series is kind of like action Zelda. It's very fun and action oriented. So if you like that top-down approach to exploration or platforming and the Zelda sort of experience, it's a really fun experience. I haven't played them all. I've seen number 5. I can't remember the name or the number. But yeah, it's very niche. It's a very specific kind of experience.
I will say that when I played the 9th game, because I was hyped, I was like real excited because I loved Ys 8 that much. But I was a little disappointed. I wouldn't say it's a bad game. I still loved it, but dang it, Ys 8 really put a pedestal for me.
It's like the Trails series. Like there's a certain fan out there who just loves Trails or Star Ocean series. Like there's all these specific Japanese series that are very niche.
Fire Emblem.
Fire Emblem is one of them. Yeah. Although
Dear God, I swear, every single one of my favorites, it has to be a freaking niche series. I swear, I am just cursed. It's a blessing and a curse.
You're not alone because one of my favorite games is Crusader Kings, and Crusader Kings is strategy game.
or Vic 3 just came out, right? Everyone's playing Vic 3, so.
No, it's shit. No.
Shit.
I'm not talking about that game.
Okay. My bad. Let's
I think
keep going.
I just remember now, but like there's that one person that said that do not associate fun with our game, and that's Last of Us 2.
Oh boy.
Do you remember that article?
Let's also not associate good storytelling with The Last of Us 2 as well.
No, like the director specifically went out of his way to like say that like fun isn't really a word that we associate with this game.
He also went out of his way to say, vote for The Last of Us 2 at the Game Awards to make everyone else mad. That really annoyed the crap out of me.
It does have good accessibility options, so.
But guys,
like-
listen.
Oh yeah, accessibility in gaming is really important. I did mention Tangle Deep earlier. I used to fucking hate that game because it kicked my ass so hard when I was playing on normal mode. And then when I realized I should probably just turn on some of the easier modes, phenomenal game afterwards because you have so much customization on how you can play through the game.
Right, yeah.
But the first time I played through it, it kicked my ass so hard. I was a salty man. I was salty about it. I still loved it when I played it till I got salty.
Yeah, it's interesting how the very good games that I enjoy, like Kingmaker or any of the two Pathfinder games from Alcat Games, they have this extremely detailed complexity section of their menu for difficulty. Like you could just like turn all these things on and off and have general settings, have HP doubled, like all these values for everything. But that's because the game is based off a D&D style game, series of scoring. So it makes sense to do that.
I think I can pull up the game's new stuff from the difficulty modifiers real quick, actually. Hold up.
Get a screen cap, because I could show you one from Pathfinder.
Right.
It's so detailed. But
okay, I'll have to plug up my Switch real quick. It shouldn't take me like 5 seconds.
Okay, we're going to keep going. It's okay.
Second case study that comes up in the question of do games have to be engaging?
What was that?
I'm just pausing it because it's echoing.
Echo.
Yeah, okay. Try again.
For all the live service, because I noticed in the response...
It's echoing
Chaos.
from Jester.
Chaos, you need to mute.
Crap, sorry.
I feel like he's very
Oh,
Canadian.
can't
This thing.
Can I get it back?
Okay. Sorry for breathing. I'm still here. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I noticed in the response to my recent video about gear grinding in AAA games and how it cannot possibly be there to enhance the experience, there were a lot of commenters saying, "Oh, shut up, you big misery guts. I like playing live service grindathons and deliberately seek them out. What do you think of that, you big games as art snob? Ooh, you'll go to bat for Scorn because it engages people in non-standard ways that you think are valid, but when Gotham Knights engages people in its own way, ooh, no, that's the wrong way."
I've not heard anybody praise Gotham Knights.
Wait.
Yeah, like,
there's
why is he using
there's
arguments that
anyone that
nobody
would
used?
praise Gotham Knights? Because I don't know much about the Gotham series. I don't know how fun it is. I hear everyone praises it, like 10 out of 10 or whatever.
What? The what? The Gotham series.
All I know about the Gotham series is that everyone about the 10 out of 10 scores. That's literally all I know.
I feel like this video is not about the concept of using fun in reviews, but just a way that he can defend himself.
No. This entire video is just listen. I had fun with Scorn, and here's how you should have fun with Scorn. And
Here's
it's like,
the shitty game that I'm comparing it to. Like, I'm gonna imagine the audience that actually says these things.
you know what I find funny from the playthroughs I've watched of Scorn, because I was quite interested in it when it came out. The whole like setting and feel is just like that. What was the new Amnesia game? That everyone's
Soma?
ripped into. No, the latest one. Morla did a playthrough of it. Amnesia something. Where's that pregnant woman who
Yeah,
doesn't act like she's
Rebirth?
pregnant because no pregnant woman moves like that.
I don't know.
Okay, Smud, I got them.
All right.
Let me post them on Twitter real quick.
Oh, okay.
What you
Because
gonna post
I'm
one?
taking screenshots on my Switch.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Check them out later.
Anyway, yeah.
Sorry about that.
But yeah. So yeah, with Scorn, it just felt like that whatever that Amnesia game was. I can't remember. I'm not a fan of the Amnesia games. So I can't remember what the latest one was called.
Yeah, I think the name didn't help you because you forgot.
Yeah. Well done, Matthias. That was a good joke.
Spud, Ginga Man told me to tell you something in DMs. He said, I just sent a donation earlier with the perfect response to Yahtzee's video.
Oh, you did.
Oh.
Okay, let me read it. Oh, here it is. Yeah, I totally missed it. Sorry, Gigaman. Let me read it for you. What is fun? F is for friends who do stuff together. U is for you and me. N is for anywhere at any time at all, down here in the deep blue sea.
Was that a quote for Mein Kampf?
That's from SpongeBob.
It is for Mein Kampf. What are you talking about?
I'm pretty sure it's 9/11.
Okay, I sent my
Last
tweet.
words before 9/11.
It's from F is for flights that go into towers.
I hate
U
this.
is for United 93.
I hate
N is for no survivors here on 9/11. See? Done.
All right.
So, how do you guys want to see hell? Because I think we are going to there.
Anyway,
I hope hell's warm and toasty. Otherwise, I've been sold a false bill of goods.
Anyway, let's continue with the video, guys.
That is double standard much? Well, I never said there's anything wrong with enjoying a grind-a-thon game. You know what? I enjoy them as well. Playing a mindless repetitive task to keep my lizard brain occupied while my higher brain listens to podcasts and video essays about long-forgotten 90s DOS games and the people who love them is one of my favourite ways to unwind. But I wouldn't say that I was engaged by the games in this case. It's the precise opposite, really. I'm using the game to deliberately disengage my brain. Does that make it less valid? That's another semantic disaster area. What do we mean by valid? And it doesn't matter anyway. What matters is if a service is being provided that people want. And evidently that's...
Again, it's not semantics. It's your hierarchy of values, what you consider is more important, and what you want to do with your time. If you're not stimulated by playing chess, I mean, you're either really bad at chess or you're a super genius. So I don't know.
I'll admit I'll agree with him on that. It depends on what's most important, but what's most important to me with video games is the fun gameplay. If I wanted to play something that was like a movie, I'd just watch a movie.
Right. But I don't want to use the semantic arguments. I know exactly what that could mean, and it's not that. It's specifically not that, because you can define a genre within a genre or a subgenre and say, well, I prefer tactical games, but not like Final Fantasy Tactics, but like XCOM Tactics. Like, okay, so you have a preference. It's still a tactical game.
They are not even that different. Like, if you see XCOM and Final Fantasy Tactics, whatever the word is, they are very similar.
Oh, for sure, they are. But because of the setting, because of the art style, because of all, like, they have guns and Tactics doesn't, or actually does, but not in the same way. They want that maybe they appeal to science fiction settings more than they do to fantasy settings, or they like their PC more than they like the PlayStation. I don't know. There's lots of reasons why you have a preference, and that's fine. It's just that you are experiencing things that way. It's not semantics, though.
Yeah.
I do want to mention something involving Fire Emblem, because that reinforces my point.
No weeb stuff. I'm cutting it off. No, stop.
Come on. I just wanted to mention something that reinforces my point about Fire Emblem. Notice how the series was dying until...
No, go away. No, stop. No, do continue.
Thank you. The series was...
Stop.
Dude, come on!
No, go on. No, seriously, go on.
If I get interrupted again, I'm going to be screaming.
Okay.
Okay, the series was dying until...
Do I have to mute you all? Is this what I have to do? Mute everyone? Is that how this works?
Sorry.
I just wanted to say the series was dying until it was a little more accessible with the stuff like the casual mode, where Fire Emblem's niche was that if you lost a unit in one chapter, it was permanently gone. But a lot of things about that really made it uncomfortable for me to play. Like, if I played Fire Emblem 7, I did that stuff with the save state. And I love Fire Emblem 7. But the casual mode, thank God. Because when that was introduced, as well as some good marketing, of course, because, all games require good marketing. It's why some of Sega's games kind of fail. But good marketing and accessibility is why Fire Emblem Awakening succeeded. I don't think that could be stated well enough. That Fire Emblem Awakening is an perfect example of accessibility in gaming is always important.
Right, and I think the introduction of the Fire Emblem series to the Switch with, I think it was Three Houses was the first, and then Three Hopes, and now I think they have Engage or whatever the hell. They completely change the genre every time they iterate to the next Fire Emblem. I don't know if that's a good idea, but people bought Three Houses, people bought Three Hopes, even though the genre was different. And they wanted the characters. They wanted to know what's going to happen next, because it was pretty much the same story, only they did a reverse. They went back in time and said, well, what if we had this character? And what would happen if that happened? It was like an alternate storytelling or alternate dimension.
Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
Go ahead.
Here's the funny thing involving Three Houses with me. When I first played it, I fell in love with it. Right now, because I'm in the Fire Emblem fan base somewhat, even though I hate it, I think it's overrated. Like, I cannot stress that Three Houses is so overrated right now.
Yeah. all I know is, once again, anime and Japanese games are mentioned. The chat's just filling up with names of anime and stuff, as usual. And once again,
all I'm saying is that there should have been a third bomb.
All I know is that I never played Fire Emblem, but I like the story.
All right.
Yeah. You are not missing out, Inquisitus. You are not missing out by not playing it.
Okay.
But back onto what I was going to say about this video. I feel this video is going to be a whole load of nothing, wrapped into not explaining his opinions, but as like trying to defend why he likes certain games that turned out badly.
We can already say that because you are having more engagement, like he liked to say, talking about the concept of the fun and how to do reviews, than actually rebutting his arguments.
Oh yeah, because he's not made any arguments. He's just gone, well, if you want to like that, you can. It's like, oh yeah, we knew that. We didn't need you in a video to tell us. We already knew we could like wanted.
So Hawk, what you're saying is this video is basically like an EA video, filled with nothing of substance, but rather has pretty graphics and pretty visuals to tide people over, right?
Absolutely not, because you would need to pay for it for all the DLCs.
also, when I hear pretty visuals, I don't think of EA games. To be honest with you,
I couldn't think of another example. I didn't want to mention Konami because, well, even until their very end, they still, at the very least, tried with some franchises. Not Metal Gear Solid, but some of them.
It's just weird that they went all in on that 9/11 game. It's just very weird that they did that.
Yeah,
we are going to
boss could have alerted that chopper.
Yeah, but it was done like
9/11 game.
It was done like 9/11, but it was just like the font was different, so people got confused by it and thought it was like Final Fantasy or something. I don't know. Yeah, I was thinking of a joke, but I couldn't be bothered to carry on the video.
Let's continue.
Grindathon AAA games' validity be damned. I suppose my worry is that there's been a breakdown in our mutual definitions. I define video games as a means by which we can have wonderful new experiences that stimulate our hearts and minds, much like every other form of artistic expression, but it seems a lot of people have a conflicting definition of video games as just a thing you do with your hands when you're bored, like popping bubble wrap or tapping a pen on the edge of a desk. And I worry that that definition has been getting excessive focus and emphasis in the mainstream sector, to the point that a lot of people have been led to believe that it's all they should expect. I think of people who say they like live service grindathons and want to play them all the time the way I'd think of someone who eats a bowl of Raisin Bran for every meal of every day, saying, hey, I'm getting enough of the basic nutrients required to stop my body from ceasing to function. What does it matter? Obviously, it's none of my business, sure, and if you are genuinely happy with that, then that's almost admirable. But I really think it would absolutely rock your world if you just, say, give Cocoa Pops a chance. Indulge me as I go on a little tangent word for a while, because when we talk about whether or not games have to be fun or engaging, it's worth taking time to go over how games can engage us. And for that, let's have a refresher on one of my older game design theories, the 3 C's. Basically, there is a whole legion of methods by which games get the player invested in what's going on, and all of them can fit under one of the following 3 headings: context, challenge, or catharsis. Context refers to storytelling. If you're playing a game because you want to know what happens at the end, or learn more about the setting, or find out what's going to happen to characters you like and or relate to, then we have a game that's strong on context. Very firmly the territory of your classic adventure games, RPGs, and visual novels, but it's not just about having a story. Every game has context to a certain extent. Space Invaders doesn't have a story, but it does have context, because the things you shoot look like little alien gribblies. If they looked like adorable lambs and mewed plaintively as you shot them, it'd probably have been a very different experience. The second...
This guy doesn't know about hunting games, does he?
I don't think he cares.
Yeah, but
I do want to mention stuff like Undertale, where it's only good when you play it one time, and a game that says, replayability? Fuck that shit. Only play it once. You're a horrible person for playing. Screw that noise. A game is supposed to be...
There is a way to play Undertale 3 times, and that's it.
Well, no. It basically tells you, oh, you got the good ending? Don't you dare reset. You're a horrible monster for resetting. And Spec Off the Line.
Yeah, Spec Up the Line.
Spec Off the Line has been described by a lot of content creators as like one of the best deconstructions of a third-person or first-person shooter. I don't know which one. I don't care.
Third person.
Yeah, but because it's basically telling about main protagonist. Spoiler. Main protagonist basically turns out to be a crazy person instead of a actual hero, like in every other shoot 'em up game or whatever. And
I'm glad you... hold on, by the way, Jess, I'm glad you said spoiler alert for a game that's from 2012.
I've gotten people mad at me for spoiling stuff by accident before. I do not want to risk it.
You know when you spoil something by accident and someone has a go at you, you know what you should say to them?
Oh my god,
Guess what? Captain America went back in time and never told the US government about 9/11. So he could have spoiled something.
Honk. That reminds me of when I was searching through.
That reminds you when you were on United 93. Oh my god, man!
I was searching through this channel, because I was interested in this guy's video about Punch Out.
Yeah.
And this guy, I wanted to play Persona 5. I have not been spoiled until that point. And this guy had to have a thumbnail that described one of the main protagonists having a breakdown. And I thought, damn it, that's the traitor, isn't it? Damn it all, turns out it was. Great. 10 years of not being spoiled. Get spoiled by a thumbnail. Perfect. What is this, Prosopia Gaming?
Yeah, Mike Tyson had some problems.
I was mad. I was mad.
Yeah.
That I don't care about spoilers anymore.
I wanted to go in this game blind.
All right. Well,
I mean, like, I'm currently watching like Better Call Saul, and like I have been like spoiled way before like what's gonna happen.
Oh, yeah.
I've also seen like the ending of Breaking Bad. So like, yeah, I know the guy's gonna turn out to be a crook, but there's like you can create like the context, like how did the character end up like that, and that's really like the interesting part.
Yeah, you got it. The details of what they think in a book or a story, you want to know
exactly.
What is this character, the way I know him, going to do? Because if I know the character, he's probably going to do X. And more than likely, he will do X. And that's what you expect. Now, if he does something outside of his personality, that's when you either call foul or you think, wait a second, is this part of him? It must be because he did it. But then you have to say, in what capacity does that make sense to you? Because if it doesn't make sense, if some guy's impulsive and all of a sudden he's reserved and thoughtful, it's like, where did that come from? And that's when you like, ask the story, like where do I go to reference that idea? And then maybe in the future they might have a flashback where he remembers something and that particular conflict brought that up.
In regards to spoilers, I don't usually like spoilers, but it doesn't really, bother me if someone accidentally spoils something, or especially if something's old. The only times I now go out to look for spoilers is on Netflix shows that my partner gets interested in.
So you can spoil it for you.
No, I spoil it so that I know whether or not I'm going to be incredibly bored.
Spoilers for all Netflix shows. One character is gay.
No, but it's just like, will this show bore me to death, or will I probably be okay with it?
That's the title of the article.
I can say to her, yeah, sure, babe, we'll watch that. If it's going to bore me to death, I'm like, no, it's fine. We'll not do it. No, I'm not interested. So that's the only time I've liked spoilers.
It will be fine.
Yeah.
I'm still mad about the time I got spoiled about Persona 5.
All right.
It's like that documentary about that horrific incident in 2001, which I wanted to... But enough about, obviously, England losing 1-0 to Germany in World Cup qualifiers. But carry on.
Oh, boy.
Leg challenge hopefully shouldn't need too much explaining. It's what video games are all about. But it's worth noting that while the other two legs offer direct satisfaction of some kind, challenge is about creating satisfaction with yourself, with having the skills or the intelligence to conquer a task or puzzle. It's also about the satisfaction of putting the work in to gather resources or build yourself up from a lowly position in order to eventually triumph over adversity. So you can have the soft challenge of an RPG where you have to level up and gather equipment to make your damage numbers high enough to take on the big boss at the end, or the hard challenge of a Dark Souls or a one-on-one fighting game, where having the best stuff is less important than developing your actual thumb dexterity, reflexes, and muscle memory. Lastly, we have catharsis, the least helpfully named leg, because the other legs both offer catharsis of some kind.
What about games that require not like Dark Souls, but actually good accuracy? Like, okay, recently I've been playing a golf game, and because I love golf, and some holes really require good accuracy in order to get a good score, and some levels really can ramp up in difficulty. And there are opponents in another golf game when I was playing that I was younger that apparently was really, really hard. Like, I remember not being able to beat this guy, even trying to get computers to beat him. He could not be beat. He was like nearly impossible, and apparently he's still really tough in comparison today.
Well, the problem with his criteria is it's not very accurate for video gaming. It's like he's taking a book and saying a book needs conflict. It's like, okay, challenge. Let's challenge in a game because it's interactive. You're like, oh, okay. It needs a story and characters. It's like, yeah, that's so, I guess, but not every video game needs stories and characters that in that capacity because it's interactive. So we've already resolved the first issue of what a video game is. It's interactive. And now he's talking about catharsis, which is now back to literary. And you're like, you don't need emotional release. And how do you get emotional release? I mean, maybe in fighting a boss that you've been leveling up for in the past day or two, like that could be cathartic, but not necessarily.
Okay, I'll steel man this guy's point because, well, you could be facing a boss that's like really evil, like, I don't know, Dr. Evil McDoofenstein or something.
Whoa! Listen, you can't mention the President of the United States on these streams. God. Good Lord!
Let's take the clown in Cuphead.
Oh, what? Okay, Matthias, I just said don't mention the President of the United States.
Okay, on my point though, like Sephiroth kills Aerith. Spoilers for a 20-year-old game that everybody knows about.
Well, I didn't.
Did 9/11.
You're telling me there's a game
kills Aerith, and moments like that is like, oh, I want to beat your pretty boy face in so badly for this. Like, stuff like that in the story, yeah. That's how you get catharsis and beating the crap out of people that treat you like garbage. Or, in my case, with one game, there's one person, this game's basically like Among Us, but visual novel, and there's always a guy that's all, I'm smarter than you, you all are completely idiots. And everyone votes him off first round, and it's always cathartic to vote him off, because I've actually encountered people like that before on on a Discord server, and the guy that I've encountered had some very abusive language thrown towards my way. Yeah, it was not fun.
Well, he has to define catharsis in the external format only. If he starts saying the cathartic moments of the characters in the story, that's a more advanced topic of catharsis. When we talk about catharsis, we go back to Aristotelian poetics, and it's always within the audience. It's always an effect, not a design of a story or a game or whatever. Unless the game has some sort of hardware which is rubbing your back or something, and you're relaxing the human body in some fashion. So no, there's no real in-game catharsis. It has to come from the audience, and it has to be spontaneous. It has to be like a connection to something, like a character in a Puccini drama, and you see them die and they're relieved of their pain. You say, oh, it's so tragic, but at the same time they're no longer feeling suffering, so you feel better. Like that sort of reaction has to occur, which is pure storytelling. So I don't know where he's going to say this has an element of game or gaming or gameplay. It doesn't work that way.
Well, I could say that this would make that his criteria would be good for like stuff like, I don't know, Phoenix Wright, where it's a visual novel but with gameplay elements. But at that point, you're talking about visual novels and not gameplay itself. Yeah. Also, Threadnought. Yes, it was Sephiroth that killed Aerith. It was Sephiroth that killed Aerith.
No.
Really, there is someone who doesn't know about that.
Sorry, Threadnoughts in the comments going, it was Genova that killed Aerith. No, it was Sephiroth.
The thing is, when everyone mentions Final Fantasy, I always remember that I've got an ex-stepbrother who named his kid Cloud.
Wow.
And it angers me so much.
Ex-stepbrother?
Like, yeah, well, someone named their kid Cloud?
That's a very California thing to do.
You exed him after that.
No. My mum was dating his dad before he thankfully died of cancer. And he named his son Cloud.
Well, it could be worse. I mean, Cloud's at the very least something cool.
Could be Sunbeam. It could be
what Cloud?
Willow.
Actually, CLOUD.
I mean, you could be named, I don't know, Ashley, and be a guy, and just hear teasing about that constantly.
Oh, wow!
Maybe
Cheers,
Volcano.
Thanks for insulting my brother. Cheers.
Hurricane. Wow. Earthquake.
Oh my
God.
I'm not trying to be insulting.
Cumulonimbus.
Is this? Are these your last words, Ashley Cloud?
But yeah, so whenever anyone actually mentions Final Fantasy, I just get this boiling rage that some poor child was named after not just a character but also a weather event.
What about
Uncle Hawk? Did you
dog
my name?
Dopamine for free Bethesda swag.
At least it's not as bad as there was a kid from my town who was named after the place he was born. Unfortunately, that was a number 38 Midnight Bus.
Oh, God.
And that was his actual name.
Hawk. You can only reach 9/11 from the clouds.
Oh.
Well, if you want to get angry at Latin naming conventions for clouds, I could imagine someone naming their hero in like a JRPG and like Cumulonimbus, damn you.
Cumulonimbus. Cumulonimbus, 14th Roman Emperor. Descendant of Julius Caesar.
Okay. Anyway, let's get back to his idea of catharsis. See, this is even the premise is wrong. You can't say you're going to have an engaging story because you've experienced catharsis. That's an after effect. Give me the reason.
You know what's really cathartic for me? Seeing that chicken and cow just living in harmony.
There's a reason the trope enjoy the game, or rather enjoy the story, skip the game is popular on TV tropes. Even though TV tropes, I think, might not be the best site anymore. There should be competitive sites
TV
too.
tropes were never the best site. If you want to know,
I meant
TV
for
tropes.
tropes. I meant for tropes.
TV tropes is a perfectly fine website.
I know, but
unless you copy and paste paragraphs off of it to make a video.
But
Like sarcastic productions.
Well, I meant to say that competition of TV tropes would be really good, since they could try to get both sides to improve upon each other or whatever, you know?
Yeah, but
There's honestly too many patterns that are either made up or combination of other patterns, and to see them as like, that's not really in the story. You can't really, you can make an argument for it's a pattern, but all you're doing is just describing that this person did a thing in a certain way in a story, and you're like, I guess that's a trope, but then you're just going to be mapping out every single human behavior in every story ever and saying, here's the Joker went wild day. It's like, okay, well, Joker just kills people randomly.
Well, the thing with TV tropes is, and especially because I don't mind having a read through, it sometimes I'm bored at work. But I find they have that, your mileage may vary like section. I find that most of the tropes should just go there.
Right.
Because people's mileage may vary on these things that are being said. And it feels like a lot of games and movies tropes shouldn't be their tropes. It should just be like in that section.
Yeah, because if I always reference the Mary Sue, because the Mary Sue is one of the biggest, most nebulous terms, and it has a section on the definition of all the versions of the Mary Sue, which all come from fanfics or fan fiction authors, and no one knows anything about this unless you've actually read it. And the ones who have read fan fiction don't even know half of these. So if you were to go down that list, you'd be like, who is this for? Where do you see this? Unless you know that genre of very specific fan fiction female authors. And oddly enough, when I was going through it, I think at the time it was with Southpaw, he read the entire list in relation to Ray. And I swear by complete chance, maybe 2 or 3 out of the 50 or so did not fit her criteria for a Mary Sue. So it was, like, you don't know. Like, if you have no knowledge of an entire genre or category of writing like fan fiction, you have no clue what those patterns even are. And I'm sure you could apply that to like a long-standing series and go, oh, here's Batman the animated series. There's every trope imaginable by all the third party, all the secondary, tertiary characters, because they're just in the background. Oh, it's the guy. It's the sacrificial lamb. He's going to die in Act 3. Yep, he does. Who knew? I don't care, and it's not necessary unless you're like Neil Gaiman, and everyone reads Neil Gaiman to some degree, and some of the fans of Neil Gaiman say, "Hey, Neil, how come every time you introduce a character in Act 2 and they're in a bar and they're flirting, they die in Act 4?" And he's like, "I don't do that." And then he goes, "Well, in this book it happened, in that book it happened." And he went, "Oh shit." Because writers aren't that creative. They run out of material and they fall back on what they know. And it happens. That's why we have the bingo cards from Maggie May Fish. And we got bored of it because it's the same shit over and over. We always fill it up. So it happened with Killing Commendatore, the author of that. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. He's a Japanese author. And he always has black cats. He has jazz music. He has ghosts. He has foreboding feelings. He has slice of life genre. It's all the same. All his books are all the same. So,
well, you mentioned that, and I remember that even the poets in the Classic Age, between Greece and Rome, they were never original. They were always comparing each other, and they were always borrowing themes from their poems. Like Virgil always tried to compare the Aeneid with the Odyssey, right. And like saying the Aeneid is better than the Odyssey because Rome will conquer the world, even Greece. Like that, it's a theme on the classic poets.
Yeah, that's why Plato's Aristotle or Plato's Socrates says that all Greek poets came from Homer. They all mimic Homer, and you can tell that if you do read those old stories by, I don't know, Euripides or Aristophanes or any of those other guys I don't remember. They all steal from Homer because he's the big guy down.
Well, one thing I know with TV tropes that actually I think helped out, because I think people noticed it, is obviously when I became a teenager with video games in the early 2010s, there became a trope of the hero dying at the end of games and stuff. And that really affected, like, in those early 2010s, you couldn't get through a game without the protagonist dying. And it also seemed like whenever they ended a trilogy, they'd kill off the main character. So that became a massive trope, and I think games companies noticed it, and that's why they've moved away from it as much.
Funny enough, this thing of being original, it's recent, from the end of the 19th century to today, because writers back in the day didn't care if they were repeating every theme or every trope. It's only recent. It's a recent thing of, oh, I need to be original. Back in the day, they didn't care.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something. But what I was saying is to obviously go back with the with the tropes being like not that good and useful really because they don't match up. I think what they do is like the big ones where you can clearly notice a pattern work really well. Like obviously with the Neil Gaiman stuff, and obviously with the because early 2010s you had Red Dead, Mass Effect 3, Dead Space 3, Assassin's Creed 3. I think one of the Far Cry games ends with the protagonist dying as an option. So that's 5, and they all came out within the space of the same year, pretty much. So there really was this trope of killing off characters or main characters. So it's very noticeable, and like what Smudge said, with the guy who comes in Act 2, he flirts, and Act 4 he dies, and all the same stories. You start to notice it, but this is a really long tangent.
Yeah.
No, but
I-
it
I
is a
kinda-
fun
I
tangent.
kind of want to ask if we can go off topic for a second, because would
No.
I was going to be involved in gaming still. I was going to ask if visual novels like Phoenix Wright would still count
As a game?
under gaming.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Because they're visual novels, but they do incorporate gameplay, like investigating, pointing out
Right.
inconsistencies and stuff.
Yeah, visual novels,
visual-
in the literal sense, if they're just turning a page and the page happens to be a dialogue box at the bottom of your screen, then that would just be a visual novel. You're just clicking on your mouse to go to the next page. That's all, with some visuals, of course.
What about visual novels where you select your path or whatever? Would that still count?
That's not a new concept. There's a thing called game books that have the choice that you go to another page.
Yeah.
It's basically visual novel.
Because I did go through a visual novel that had about 60 plus endings, and I was stupid enough to get them all.
Yeah, I know. There's choose your own adventure stories. When I was a kid, I read some. One of them was called "Be an Interplanetary Spy," and most of those extra pathways were just dead ends. So, in some cases,
Man, you remind me when I played one that I actually made 3 characters, and my third character won the game by accident.
yeah, it's kind of funny because sometimes you'll have a path which makes sense to the story, where it's like, I can go both ways, and you go that one way. There's some story. They go to page 59. You go to page 59. There's more story. Go to page 60, and then you die, and you're like, what? This is like several pages ago. Why did that happen? So
It's really
This is literally the Dark Souls of visual novels.
yeah, it's kind of sad because they literally drive you up the garden path. You're thinking, oh, this is gonna be great. Get to the top of the path, you're dead. It's like, oh, I didn't do anything.
Nothing ever bad happens to the Kennedys. Crash.
Yeah, it always reminds me, obviously, those sort of things. The actual paperback novels they used to do with those choose your own adventure.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
While I'm remembering that Kennedy's reference, Threadknot, can you tell Smash Mario Pro I said hey?
No, we can't. Go away.
Aww.
No, but my all I was going to say with that is, that can have catharsis factors with doing those choose your own adventure games. Because I remember when I was younger, we used to have library time at school, and you were meant to go in and pick a book and read. And I always used to sneak off and take those books to read. And I remember getting into trouble because they weren't educational books.
Right. They were effectively story games where you just decide to go different paths.
I mean, if the books are teaching you to read and learning new words and all that, they would be educational.
Well,
I don't understand this.
They are effectively they're games without the digital element, because a video game is just a series of logic puzzles. And those books, at least the one that I read, it would ask you a question. Do you go this path or that path based off the knowledge it gave you? So you're like, okay, I
totally would not mind seeing more gaming getting involved in schooling, to be honest, because that would make a lot of lessons fun. Like Professor Layton would probably be great with that.
Anyway,
yeah.
Let's continue with the video.
What I mean here is everything that creates pure satisfaction on a visceral, sensory, moment-to-moment level, without offering challenge or needing context. This, friends, is the realm of popping bubble wrap. It's not very challenging to blow off a villager's head in Resident Evil 4 in a shower of chunks, and context doesn't add a whole lot to it either, but it's undeniably cathartic. See also Swinging Through the City in Spider-Man.
No, it's not. It's not cathartic. It's sensationalistic. It's you do an event and a reaction occurs. That's like life. You drop a ball, it falls to the ground. Like, woo, that's not cathartic.
Why the heck did he not mention something like Dynasty Warriors for that point? That would have made his point better. He just shot himself in the foot.
Well, with Dynasty Warriors, you would have this ridiculous army of mooks coming at you, like 1,000, and you throw them into the air with a massive blast to the ground, like a bomb, and they all jump up and down like a bunch of rag dolls.
That is catharsis, like taking down multiple warriors, feel like a demigod of destruction, an avatar of slaughter. That's some catharsis.
Well, the opposite is also true.
Because you're terrified shitless.
Okay.
But like Smut said, catharsis is in the audience. Like not everyone will feel that.
Yeah, he's talking about sensationalistic elements as opposed to dramatic reactions to tragedy or comedy or whatever. It's not cathartic. It's just you program a head to explode when you shoot a shotgun shell at it. It's visceral, but that's not catharsis. It's visually stimulating. It's not catharsis is at the end of the experience, not the start of the experience.
Like you can count it, but I wouldn't say it is something that needs to be.
Yeah, his understanding of the word is not classically known, or he's not using it properly. So it's like, okay, his criteria is broken, but we know what he's trying to get at. So that's fine. That's good enough for me.
I apologize if my definition of catharsis was kind of stupid. I'll admit I'm not the smartest.
People like Dynasty Warrior games. That's totally fine. The latest Fire Emblem game from the same setting was a Dynasty Warrior game, right? So people loved it.
Yeah, I'm not playing that one though. I would rather play Persona 5 Strikers,
right.
Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity.
Exactly.
Dear God, I got like 5 Dynasty Warrior games on my Switch. I need help.
People like them. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just other people who like the turn-based stuff, and I'm not a fan of turn-based combat in general, but would want that because that's the classic Fire Emblem experience. So for them to change genres was like, whoa, what are these guys doing? How do they do that? They pulled it off. It worked. People bought more of it. And then they changed again the next time they came out. What is it? I can't remember the name of the new one. I said it like 20 minutes ago. But they changed everything. Which one?
Sorry.
Which one was it called? Do you know?
I was about to say, I wonder if Streets of Rage would also count as a Dynasty Warrior game.
No, it's a beat 'em up.
I know, but wouldn't a Dynasty Warrior game count as a beat 'em up though?
I would say yes.
I only ask because I think I
hack
know.
and slash is the category, I believe.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know.
I think I know why I kind of like them though.
Anyway, it's okay. We're good.
I'm sorry for interrupting you, Smud. I'm really sorry.
Let's keep going.
Well, you shouldn't. We are going to execute you.
Okay.
Whoa. Calm down. It's just,
Just Canadians.
all a bit of fun,
Let's keep going.
Or the from World of Warcraft. Sure, as a challenge to get knowledge and effect of having grown stronger is utterly secondary to the sheer visceral joy of hearing that delightful sound and seeing that bloom of light. Don't worry, I'm getting to a point. The thing about the 3 Cs is that any of the 3 can carry the experience and create something that will be remembered as an open quotes good game. Disco Elysium would be just one example of a game whose very strong showing in the context side of things more than makes up for deficiency in the other 2 legs. You can have any mixture that you like, and every now and again a tragically rare game appears that scores highly in all 3 at the same time. That'd be something like a Dark Souls or a Resident Evil 4. And the reason why I brought all this up is because I was trying to think of where a AAA Gear Grinder or Ghost Train ride from the current era sits upon the 3-leg theory, and it appears to be a case of all catharsis all the time.
Okay, this guy is just no.
It may work for him, this type of standard, but it actually is not really well defined or well made to use for reviewing.
By the way.
Who knows?
By the way, Red Dead Redemption 2, I think it does all those C's correctly.
I will mention East 8 again, thinking that they do all 3 of those as well.
I still need to play Red Dead.
Yeah.
I've heard about Red Dead. I played the first one. I love the protagonist until spoiler. We all know what happens at the end.
He crashes a plane to the 2 towers, I know.
Everyone was trying to make that joke. Don't try that.
Mark, literally thousands of people died. Honestly, how could you make a joke about that? Disgusting. God.
Only 1,000?
Wait.
Yeah.
I have 6 million reasons to refute that.
It was the second worst thing. It was the second worst thing ever to happen on American soil.
How about a 4th nuclear bomb? There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what the worst thing ever to happen on American soil was? Mass Effect Andromeda. Anyway.
I agree.
In Canada? In Canada?
Isn't Mass Effect Canadian?
Well, North America, I guess. Same thing.
I wanted to mention Justin Bieber because that's a pretty old reference.
That's such Mass Effect.
Low bar. I mean,
Mass
come on.
Effect Andromeda is worse than Justin.
Yeah.
A few games worse than Mass Effect Andromeda.
Yeah, but none have the exact same, feeling of wishing you were on one of those planes. And just, as the tower gets closer, going, well, at least I won't have to see Cora. And then just, embracing the explosion and the fuel melting jet beams.
I can imagine that face that Liam makes when the camera zooms in on it, and that's when you're in the cockpit and you're just, ready to...
That's at least 1,000 times 9/11.
You want to know one good thing of Callisto Protocol? The guy who plays Liam dies in it, and so it's really good. I keep replaying that bit.
I got a good question for everybody. Would a decent or great adaptation of any anime or any cartoon also be a good game that would cover all 3 Cs?
No, because it's anime already. It's just weeb shit.
I mean, you have to.
I can think of a few decent adaptation games though,
You're talking about challenge being something inherent to gameplay. So it's okay, give an example of an anime adaptation that had good challenge. And
I think a great one would probably be any Yu-Gi-Oh game.
In a card, so a card.
A lot of Yu-Gi-Oh games can get a little difficult.
Right.
The last Tag Force game I played, I got my butt kicked quite a bit.
Right. So we're talking a card game. Yeah, it's a card game, and there's all kinds of card games. There's what's that?
And the reason why I say it's a good anime adaptation is because it takes place at during Yu-Gi-Oh GX, and you go to the school and you learn classes and all that. And I feel like that's a good adaptation.
Well, I was thinking on the reverse, an anime adaptation of a game.
Or is it just the fact that it takes place during an anime that's good?
Well, the adaptation element would be the fan who likes the original, whatever the primary source is, saying, okay, I know the lore. We see the adaptation. Oh, wow, they're doing the school and they're fleshing it out the way the book did, and now it's interactive. Hey, that's a good adaptation because it's taking what I want and making it real, or at least interactive. So you could argue that is a great experience, but doesn't mean it's going to be challenging, or you care about the characters and their plots and you're going to have a cathartic moment, or at least not the way necessarily that Mr. Yahtzee here is explaining cathartic. I'm still confused on what exactly the sensational element of like playing the card game, slapping the card down with your controller, hitting the A button, and then boom, you played the card, and that feels good. That's what he's trying to get at. So his definition is so simplistic that any adaptation that has a fun or simple control scheme that does an explosion is going to be good.
Yeah, that is what I said. I think his system of reviewing is not really fleshed out. It can really brings the flaws of his reviews.
Yeah. We could easily right now make up a small criteria for what makes a game compelling, and I already know it because we've talked about it for years. But if a game does not have good gameplay and good controls to facilitate the gameplay, and then a story to give us some reason to care about what's happening in the gameplay, then we may as well just turn off all the graphics, have a bunch of polygons running around, and say, wow, this interface scheme and output is so much fun. And that's all it would be, which is just pure mechanics. And we'd be a bunch of robots running around thinking we've achieved peak gameplay because interface. So there has to be more than just graphics and sound. There has to be some interface, controls, characters, music.
There's got to be, like, you've got to have a large, like, mesh of stuff to make a game
exactly
compelling.
And I
always just say, well, this has got
one
good thing.
Sorry.
Well, I was
no, continue. That's all right.
I was gonna say I would compare a game to like a pizza.
Okay.
You gotta have the dough.
Sure.
You gotta flatten it out. You gotta have a decent amount of sauce, decent amount of cheese, and a good amount of pepperoni. If you have too much dough, or if you have too much sauce, or too much cheese, or anything, you end up making it less good as a result. That's the best way I can.
There is a degree of balance in how you construct your levels, the length of cutscenes, the length of gameplay, how much exploration you need. Like, there's all this wonderful knowledge that we have playing an adventure game, a point-and-click game, a sports game that we're like, okay, this is a bit off, and we can tell it because so you're playing Red Dead, you're open world. I should know where to go on the map. And if I get lost, it's either because I'm really not paying attention or the levels were not designed to tell me where to go. But for the most case, you know where you're going. It's not hard.
Yeah. I mean, there's even bits where you can take the, in the settings, you can take the minimap off. But they've done stuff in the game world, like road signs and, sites.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. I was just going to say, like, bringing up like the Callisto Protocol, because obviously I've been watching a lot of reviews about it. Because I'm very tempted to make one myself about the game because there's just something.
I mean,
something
you
about
should
it.
because that would be fun.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, my point is, everyone always goes on about how good the game looks, right after constantly mentioning the problems, obviously the lagging and the frame rates disappearing and stuff like that. And so it just kind of like strikes me as, why are you saying this looks really good when you're struggling to play it and your machines are struggling to like do it and everything like that? And go on, Chester.
I wanted to mention a game that I completely forgot about on the discussion of RPGs. That was Western or Eastern RPGs. I completely forgot about it because it was a novel concept for an RPG that I really did enjoy and suck some time into. Dang it! It was a Hero Must Die Again, where you play an OP protagonist at the start, but he dies at the start, and you're given 6 days to continue, and you get progressively weaker each day. And it's actually really interesting.
Oh, right.
And, what?
No, I said, oh, right. Yeah, no, carry on. I was interested in what you were saying.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that earlier on a discussion of RPGs, but yeah, sorry.
I remember that because I was looking for a game where it progresses instead of it being a power creep. It's a depowering creep. Like you keep getting weaker and weaker. So I thought it was a side scroller, but this might be another version of like a Japanese version of that idea. And it gets harder and harder as it goes. You get weaker and weaker.
Also, on the topic of gameplay and gameplay being fun and all that, I will stand on the hill that Pokemon Scarlet's still fun. I played it. Everyone complained about it, but I love it still. I felt I would make the comparison to the granny's coat, something like that again.
I've never played a Pokemon game, so I can't even say anything.
You have fun with it because you like it. So saying that it is fun as a qualifier, it doesn't sound right. Like because
it's hard to say why I feel Scarlet's more fun, but the more openness and the fact that you get a lot more to do in comparison to some other Pokemon games, or a lot more options and a lot more movability. That riding around on Koraidon. Riding on Koraidon becomes a lot of fun. It's like me driving out in the middle of the night at like 4 o'clock because I kind of like driving out in the nighttime, and the night sky is very beautiful. You know, I would compare it to that because it's real enjoyable.
We would have to get into like neurology and saying, you know, do you get certain endorphins or natural stimulants through your brain doing a certain activity, which is considered work? And you'd be like, okay, I'm going through a Souls game. I know I'm going to die at least 50 times before I figure out how to win. And it's that challenge that the person likes. The same way a very good runner isn't too concerned about, beating their best time. They just really like running. So they're going to keep running every day. And maybe if they were more structured, they'd have an actual plan to figure out what their time is and get better at a marathon. So they're preparing. They'll just be like, yeah, I can do this, but they just want to run. So it's the work ethic and the discipline of the thing you like, which happens to be gaming or beating a thing or adventuring in the wilderness of an open world game or whatever the case is. And you think that that priority in your value list is so much fun that it doesn't seem like work. It doesn't seem like a challenge. It's just, oh, I got to do these 50 steps to figure out if I could pass this hurdle. That's part of anything in life when you learn or get better. It's not the reward at the end. It's not like finishing the book and, I finished War and Peace, I'm great. No, it's reading and enjoying the book. It's going through the paces of getting better and training or physically or mentally or whatever you're doing in life. That's the trick. And when you say fun, it's usually an after effect of enjoyment. Say, I can appreciate what I did. And I always talk about food that way because anyone can put salt in their mouth and say, oh, this is too salty or this is too sugary or this is too whatever. When you have salt, though, and when you taste salt of different flavors, like there's different kinds of salt. There's sea salt, there's red salt, there's Himalayan salt. You say, okay, this kind of salt in this concentration done in this sort of way, graded that sort of method, cooked in that temperature for this long. Like there's all these details that are missing in this simple flavor of salting something. And we hear that all the time with this prosciutto is better or, this steak is too salty, whatever. There's all these nuances. So we can objectively measure these things. It's what do you think is better on a steak? Is it salt?
I think it also depends on your mindset playing a game because
yeah, for sure.
Okay, I'll admit when I was a little bit more competitive with my gaming, I was enjoying games a little bit less, and I was a bit more grumpy. I was a bit more spiteful in gaming. Now instead, I just become more casual and trollish.
Right. There's the 4. I think it's called Bartlett's or Bartles. What the hell's that the guy called? The 4 types of gamer. And
as a result, I've noticed that I played Smash Bros. And fighting games less. Well, I didn't play fighting games that much before, but now I'm really put off because, well, that shit is competitive. Well, that shit's like competitive gatekeeping in a way. You know, if you're competitive, you're good, but if you're not, they kind of gatekeep you by design alone somewhat. I think that's the best way I can describe fighting games.
Specifically for fighting games, I mean, we're talking about the psychology of the player. That is either the achiever or the killer, because there's the 4 main categories. The killer would probably be like, you can come up against me, I'm always going to beat you. I'm going to be the best at countering whatever you can do, whether you know a technique, I'll use a different character, I'll try a different aerial attack, whatever. Like that's the mindset of the competitor killer stereotype. And there's I can't remember them all. I think there's the explorer. Anyway, that's the general category of any genre game in any game.
I think fighting games will always naturally gatekeep themselves because it is even if it is made for the casual audience, there is always gonna be people that will excel at it.
Yeah, there's progression. There's progression in RPGs. There's stat caps or top level caps. There's invisible walls. There's in the game I'm playing right now, Chained Echoes. There's so many times where it's like, oh, that's the wrong way, and your player just backs off from the path you're about to take. And it's like there's because the map is so big and there's all these directions. You're like, oh, you're going the wrong way. It's like, where do I have to go?
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's just one of those things that it makes you laugh. Like the characters know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. Where do I have to go?
I wanted to mention a game like Among Us and another game that plays similar to Among Us.
Sure.
But I enjoy far more. Town of Salem. Does anyone know that game?
Yep.
I am not a big fan of Among Us. I think it's really boring and I really could not care for it. But Town of Salem, where you have a lot more variables and a lot more ways to find evil roles and ways for evil roles to be hidden and all that. I kind of like Town of Salem more because of all the variables and all the different abilities and all that.
Yeah, imposter games are not actually a very old concept too. I don't know how Among Us became such a popular thing in 2020.
I think it's mainly because of the mobile thing, and everyone thought it was original.
And the streamers was it free? I think it was free, and
it is free on mobile.
Yeah, and the streamers are back in was it 2020 or 2019? They were
between those 2 years.
Yeah, and everyone was doing it.
I did have a friend of mine get on my case about downloading it on my phone instead of not playing it on Switch, instead of buying it on Switch, and I'm just like, I do not want to download that on my phone. Phone gaming sucks.
Well, I found it funny that my investment banker at the time had a kid, and they were playing Among Us with his kids. Like, really? That's that popular? I was like, okay.
I think it was.
Well, I'm just.
It was fun when you were with a lot of people you know.
Yeah, for sure.
If you were with people you didn't know, fucking hell, it was terrible. Like, I had tons of fun with like you guys, but when I did it on my own, I was like, no, I'm never playing this game ever again.
Yeah, we can be grateful that Among Us brought us here.
Okay. Anyway, we got 2 minutes left. Let's see what Yahtzee has to say about his broken criteria.
grinding up the biggest numbers in endless copy-pasted combat doesn't have much context going on, and the constant predetermined action set pieces of the Ghost Train ride are more about empty spectacle than challenge, it feels like mainstream gaming has spent the last decade perfecting the method to refine catharsis down to its most optimal formula, until it can get you hooked with just the promise of a number going up. And as I say, it's fine to enjoy that. It's specifically designed to be enjoyed on the immediate lizard brain level. But
Okay, wait. You just said the magic word. You said enjoyed, which is a positive reaction to a experience, which is technically fun. Fun is a positive reaction to any activity. It's like, I'm having fun chopping down trees. I'm having fun eating soup. It doesn't matter. It's whatever you think is enjoyable.
Having fun making people mad on the internet.
Yeah, it's fun to do the thing you like. That's it. The thing is, why is the thing you like fun? Tell me why. What's the element that makes you go, yay?
Well, in my case, it would probably be making everyone rage quit on Magic the Gathering Arena, because I have a deck full of counter spells and nothing else.
Okay.
My thing that makes me fun is just wasting my time until the slow grip of death takes me.
Okay. Jesus. That was.
I just like to conquering Crusader
I
Kings.
just need to read a couple of laughs. Either. It don't really bother me.
I remember when I was in high school, a buddy of mine was saying, whatever takes up time. I was like, that's why you play video games? Whatever takes up time?
I wonder if part of the problem with gaming nowadays is that a lot of games try to play it safe with their level designs instead of being a little bit more experimental.
It can be both ways.
Because I've noticed something. I've noticed something that people complain a lot about some mechanics in the past where it was or some levels where they feel dated, they feel clunky and all that. But at the same time, it's that ability to try to be a little risky that also gave us a lot more positive levels, I can think.
Well, I think one of the major problems with games is every single game wants to be the next big thing, but none of them are willing to risk anything to become the next big thing. So
there's also the audience too. The audience can be too contempt too. Like they actually don't think about if games are being more risky or just being safe, but just buy it and play it. So that's why I think it can be both ways. It can be less experimentation and the audience not caring.
Mm-hmm.
I want to apologize if I'm causing a bit of chaos or interrupting people in this podcast today.
It's your name.
It's perfectly fine. It happens usually, and it's fine. Don't worry. I'm just writing your name down on a list of people not to interact with again. Don't worry.
All right, we got 2 minutes. Let's keep going.
it's still one of the three legs. And it's like what I said about diversity. Your mind is like a gene pool. Without a range of experiences, it goes stagnant and inbred. And there's something about this relentless refining of just one aspect of game enjoyment that feels very exploitative and callous. It's like gaming is a lovely garden full of all kinds of flowers that appeal to lots of people in different ways, and the big money industry just marched in, uprooted all the poppies, refined them into heroin, and started dealing it to people at the entrance gate before they can get in to enjoy the rest of the garden. Yes.
I think that comparison would be good if and only if we forget about the problem that no game is trying to cater towards all genres. The reason why it's a different variety of flowers is because there's a lot of developers and a lot of franchises. I don't think there's one game that's trying to play towards every genre unless it's some kind of clusterfuck.
Oh, you've never played Dead Space 3 then, have you? Because that tried to do literally...
I have not played Dead Space 3, and I have not heard, the Dead Space series just doesn't sound interesting to me.
Okay, well, number one, you're wrong. It's perfectly fine.
It
Don't worry.
doesn't sound interesting to me personally. How am I wrong about a personal thing?
It's normal to be wrong about personal things. It's all right. Don't worry.
Anyway, his analogy of turning the poppies into cocaine to make certain elements more attractive is kind of weird.
Also, Yahtzee doesn't care about diversity. He hates white people. He does. He hates white people so much. He wants the Japanese to be white so he can hate more people.
Well, the analogy.
No. He hates white people so much he apologizes every day for being white.
Well, the analogy that he's giving some attractive feature at the entry. So this is like marketing. So the marketers are like, here we have 50 levels, or you can do finishing moves, or whatever the attractive appeal is. That's not just in video games. That's anything. That's any marketing. So the idea that we latch on to gameplay mechanics from previous games that people liked, like, I don't know, airships in JRPGs, or active time battle from Final Fantasy, like all these elements that people were like, okay, this is good, we're going to keep using that. Or
crafting in general, because I've heard
that's normal. That's how the entire industry of anything progresses. You get the best that works, you keep it, you modify it, you upgrade it, you keep going with it. And if you want to take a risk and try something new with your combat system, try it out, see if it works. And we saw that with turn-based combat a lot. There's all these dumb rules with turn-based combat, like you can't do this move after move 6, or you have a power meter and it goes too high, you can't do any moves, or you run out of fuel. All these dumb rules.
You just reminded me of BattleTech, because BattleTech is just like that.
Yeah, it's like, I can do this turn-based, but then I can't. I'm like, why? Why can't?
If you use too much your PPC, you're gonna make your mech explode. So doesn't use too much.
If I can say something involving one of my videos I made when it comes to similar concepts, basically my point is, just because something is similar doesn't mean it's good. Like, yeah, we could take stuff that it worked in other games, but at the same time, you risk becoming a carbon copy of another game instead of trying to find your own style. Like, and
that's bring to what I said before, that only recently people care of being original, because back in the day, way back in the day, being original wasn't even a thing. Like, yeah, I copied Odysseus. I used Odysseus, the Homer's poems. So what?
I mean, it's not like people can't be original. I mean, Rhythm Thief. No. The game. Well, I know what you meant. I just wanted to mention that originality is still going strong today. I mean, Rhythm Thief, something Sega sure doesn't pay attention to. Sure is original. It's a Professor Layton style rhythm game. Real fun. Too bad Sega never bothered to finish their cliffhanger, but still not salty about that. But in comparison to similar games, though, I would love games that are similar to another, but I also want them to try not to copy them. Like, does anyone know Monster Crown and Temtem, right?
I only know Temtem.
Monster Crown trying to be a more horror Pokemon, and it doesn't look all that good, to be honest. It's trying to be an edgy Pokemon, and I just think it just...
Right, well, whether it's other studios or even the same studio, like we talk about Mass Effect Andromeda's gameplay being at least good to play, the melee system, they had the vertical movement, they had elements that were worked upon in the previous game. And it's like, oh, yeah, it can do the stuff I like already, but more. Not necessarily as good, though.
Well, I forgot to even mention this. I saw my brother for the first time in a couple of months, and we were just chatting, and he brought up Mass Effect Andromeda.
Really?
I was like, okay, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I really enjoyed it." I was like, "Oh no, this is not how this interaction." The first
I
thing
am
he said,
sorry for your brother's taste. I will arrange a funeral in about a week.
well, he went. The first thing he said was, "Oh, I enjoyed the fact they had a jetpack," and I was like, "Oh, thank God!" Oh, he's just retarded.
Okay, your brother has. Okay, your brother's taste is still alive. It's hanging in there, but it's still alive.
Right. So
I was like, "Oh no, he's just
he's
just retarded, and he likes shooting games." Oh, it's all right. He didn't like the story or anything.
Yeah. Well, that's fine because that and the car was probably the only really new things they added. The
car wasn't even new.
Well, a fast-paced car.
It's just a better make-up.
Faster car. Yeah, it was just a faster dune buggy, right? So
Yeah,
you could say that's an improvement. The combat, when I saw it, I was like, oh, you could put a hammer on, you could get a sword. And I'm like, and you saw the attack for the Omni Blade or whatever, and it looks so stupid. It was like, this is kind of pathetic. It's not very dramatic. It's not very impactful. But they wanted to simplify and streamline because they have so much going on with the main character who can do anything. And you're like, okay.
I just thought of something, actually.
What?
Of all the talk that a lot of game reviewers talk about, when it comes to talking about games, I don't think I've ever seen a game reviewer talk about a stinking Flash game or an online game as freaking examples and stuff like that. And I'm just wondering why that never happened. I know this might not sound beyond topic, but I always wondered about that.
Flash is relatively dead.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we all know how good some great Flash games are, right?
Well,
there's some channels that talk about Flash games, but they talk as a form of nostalgia video, not a review.
Mm.
I know, but it still wouldn't hurt to mention some good Flash games, like Balloons Tower Defense, Roar, which was a really good Flash game. It was like Pokemon, but more, but with more Cthulhu type creatures instead of being a stupid edgelord game. It was a pretty good RPG with your own monster.
I like a lot of Strange Creature. I think it is the name of the game, and I like a lot the administration games, like you build your own shopping or your own hotel, all those sort of things.
I also remember Star Ocean or RPG shooter Star Wish or Star Wish, I believe, which is what the heck's that shoot 'em up type genre? Star, I think it was Galaga or not Galaga.
Well, I want to now I remember one game that everyone's like and everyone talks. That is Henry Stickmin. Everyone talk about this Flash game, which is not even a Flash game. And it is not a Flash game anymore. You can buy it on Steam.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see RPG Ocean Star Wish get a revival or a remake on Steam, because that honestly is one of my favorite games of all time. It's easily in my top 10.
Anyway, back to heroin. Flowers.
Let's go.
I'm sorry. I was a bit curious about why reviewers never mention Flash games as like examples of other games. All
right,
to be honest with you, game reviewers don't mention a lot of things because they're usually rubbish. So
it just feels like missed potential.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah.
It's none of my it's hooked on smack, nor can one really blame the dealers if the free market keeps demanding more smack, but don't tell me not to complain about all the used needles in the koi pond.
Extra
that was it?
That's it?
That's it?
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. Oh
All
my
right.
God.
That was...
it really ended like that?
Yeah, I guess so.
Mm-hmm. It's like, how... do games have to be fun? Anyway, here's heroin and needles and a koi pond. Okay.
No.
I started throwing car batteries.
On a scale of 1 to 10 of how that video was, it was definitely...
Say it.
No.
No, we know you want to
Four.
say it.
Go on. Don't
It's
hold it
definitely
back.
it's like a 3 or a 4. Not that good, really.
I enjoyed it only because I got to get on this discussion.
Honestly,
Yeah.
we probably made the audience who is watching us now be having more engagement because we talk about all the concepts of reviewing rather than the video itself.
Yeah.
I would rate it an 11 minus 9. Yeah.
I do want to apologize again if I was distracting too much in the podcast.
It's all right. The only thing that was distracting was you apologising all the time. But yeah,
I know. I don't want to feel like a bad.
So it seems like you are half Canadian.
I do want to try to strive to be a better person to improve content.
I'm just going through stream
Okay.
memes. So
yeah. I know. I'm watching streamings. To be honest with you, I'm just sort of thinking, God, I wish Yahtzee was a Canadian.
really,
I mean, he can
Yeah,
still move there.
So that the healthcare can just tell him to kill himself. So
I do not want to move to Canada where they tell me to kill myself.
well, here's a great American. It's American Dad, I think. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. Guns defend people against people with smaller guns.
mhm.
Or knives. Or teeth.
All
or
other
whatever.
people.
Now I can only communicate through
all the
Xenoblade
people.
Chronicled tenor gifs. Oh boy,
Oh no.
Right.
I'm so sorry. Can you feel the love?
Yes.
I guess so.
Hmm.
But basically, to reiterate my point, games are expensive. They cost like $60 at
Mhm.
most, maybe. It depends, but with that $60, you don't want to go through a movie that you only get to experience once. That would feel like a ripoff.
Yeah.
I mean, if I want to talk about me spending $60 on a movie, it would be me watching the Bad Guys film like about 5 times in theaters. Which, yes, I did do. But my papa and my grandmother were concerned about that, though.
Why is Bill Clinton holding a club?
I don't.
They saw this film, and my papa thought this is a cartoon. This is childish.
Dr. Crispin, why is Bill Clinton holding a club?
Why? Because he's a rabbi.
He's a renowned Jewish rabbi, yeah.
Okay.
Wait a
Yeah.
minute. Okay, stream.
All right. Oh no, let's not even talk about the game.
What, the guy from Elden Ring?
That was that a Kanye moment? I can't remember. Did that happen?
Oh, what? You mean he wanted to gas the Jews? I don't know.
Oh Lord.
It was a Bill Clinton moment.
I just when you say Kanye now, I just
Why is Bill Clinton on the cover of Elden Ring? What is going on? Am I missing something?
Because-
That happened
That guy.
because some stupid idiot raided the stage or infiltrated the stage and goes, I thank Bill Clinton for something or whatever. When he
being a
was
rabbi.
The former president of the United States raided. Wow.
No. Bill Clinton.
It wasn't Bill Clinton. It was some stupid idiot teenager, I think.
No, but the thing
I
is,
know.
Bill Clinton's best known as being the husband of the runner-up in 2016.
No, he's best known for wanting to screw everyone else other than his wife.
I was always
Well,
wondering, is this the return for the gaming in the Clinton ages?
I would not mind to see a president gaming a gamer. I want to see him rage online. That would be hilarious.
I did
As
not.
president, I will find this person and own his ass.
Mhm.
I'm just going through all these streaming.
Yeah, no,
quietly.
I've gone through them now. I'm looking at Bill Clinton stuff.
I don't know who this character is, but I'm curious to find out.
Okay.
Here is Sephiroth bouncing a Kirby like a basketball. That's
I will show you despair. Will you stop bouncing, Kirby? Dang it!
Kirby probably won.
it's kind of mesmerizing. Actually, it's very well done.
Chances
it's
are that's
actually-
probably Robot Chicken.
It's I think it is a stop motion.
Yeah, looks good.
Oh yeah, it looks like a robot chicken thing.
There's what is it? Clone High, I think.
Flown high, yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned the Kennedys as a joke earlier.
This
I want to watch this show. I saw a lot of this character on memes.
I'm not too interested. I've seen the memes, but I've heard about it. I'm just not.
Oh, it's the Dynasty Warriors clone, yeah.
I do like. I will admit, Dynasty Warriors is somewhat fun for me, even though I feel like it could be a little bit tedious at times.
All right, guys, that was our surprise. Who recommended this video? I didn't even know if this was on the docket. Was it on there?
This was the
was-
highest vote, actually.
Really? All right.
It was on the poll, but Mark saw and got interested, and we arranged for today.
All right. Well, I think we're off tomorrow, but we are doing apparently the second part of that dude we covered yesterday, whose name I forgot. And I don't know why, but that's what people wanted to do. I thought it was a waste of time, but hey, there's fun stuff later on in the video. It gets better apparently. So hopefully we'll have a wonderful talk about the joys of science fiction as always being woke or something on Friday.
My
Anyway.
goodness.
Thank you guys for chilling out for us for about 2 hours. Thank you so much. And take it easy.
Thank you all
Yeah.
for having me,
Thanks
by
for
the
coming
way.
on. Thanks for chilling out with us and keeping warm and laughing along. That was a pretty bad take. I mean, it wasn't dumb. It was just a bad take from Yahtzee. He's a smart guy, but not that smart.
I
Unfortunately.
don't think he's
Yeah,
smart
Yeah,
anymore.
Yahtzee. This was Yahtzee.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was he
Well,
the
you not
guy
know-
that
you
passed
not
away
know
from
it.
cancer?
No,
What?
no, no, no.
What?
Someone voted for cancer. What?
Who? What? What?
The person that passed away from cancer.
Who?
No,
No,
that's Total
that's
Biscuit.
Total Biscuit.
Oh.
Oh
I'm
my
stupid,
god.
I'm sorry.
Nice quick. What?
Your
serious.
internet history is bad.
Chocolate
You
sauce.
get an F.
No, like listen,
Hey,
Total
hey,
Biscuit.
I care about. I only know. I'll admit I'm not. No. Nobody's
Right, listen.
perfect, and I'll admit
Right.
that I'm not
Right.
perfect.
Jester, just like listen. To separate them, just remember, Total Biscuit was good at videos, is dead. Yahtzee, bad at videos, unfortunately still alive. That's how you've got to remember.
Do not get good at videos or you're gonna die. That's the lesson.
I got a question actually. What's the thoughts on Jim Sterling? I heard
Oh,
That's
No.
very good.
No.
Jester, we,
I heard Jim Sterling kind of
No.
went down the crazy hole from what I heard. I haven't kept
kind
up,
of?
though.
Kind
You know,
of.
you,
Understatement.
you know who you should ask that question to? Ask Whisp that question. You'll really enjoy it. So,
4 hours
I've
later.
only heard,
God,
I've
no.
been wondering about Jim Sterling. I've only known about him.
Do not wonder about Jim Sterling. God, do
Don't
not
ever.
think about him.
I was
Go-
trying
go-
to
go
wonder
read
what
the manga.
happened.
Go read a manga. Go watch an anime. Go watch some good series. Don't think about this.
don't think about Jim Stern and do anything else. Hold your head
Something
underwater.
tells
For
me I
15
don't want to
minutes.
know the answer.
Anyway, yeah, we're gonna
Let's
go.
end it.
Have a great night, and we'll see you on Friday. I hope. So take it easy, guys. Bye-bye.
Yay! Bye. Bye.
I apologize if I was bad.
Now going to the